Hi and welcome to this tutorial on how to install the FrSky do-it-yourself ACCST module into your receiver, into any PPM receiver. And this is the MX12 from JR or Graupner, and I'm going to show you how to install it and what you need in order to do that. So of course you need a soldering iron, a helping hand, as well as some solder, and a screwdriver to open the transmitter, as well as some heat shrinks for the wires. This is what it comes shipped like. You got an instruction manual, and of course you got your do-it-yourself FrSky system, which is using the PPM, the ground, and the plus on your transmitter. And here you've got the button for binding, as well as LED indicating the mode your transmitter is in, as well as the 2.4 GHz antenna. Okay, so the first step is to open up your transmitter. Therefore you do want to get your battery out of your transmitter. Now you can open it up, and as you can see I already got a switch in there, which is going to help me switch between the 35 MHz and the 2.4 GHz system. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you open up the transmitter, except for I already got the 3 signal wires I need extracted from the board, and this is what you have to do. As you can see, there are 3 wires coming from the transmitter itself, and before I made some changes to it, these 3 wires were connecting to the 35 MHz board right here. And you have to check out and find out which one is the ground, which one is the positive, and which one is the PPM signal wire. You can do that by using a multimeter, and once you figured that out, you can extract the cable in the cables in the right direction. And what I did to it is I intercepted the signal coming from the main board and connected it to this switch right here, and this switch changes the power from the 35 MHz board to another external source, which is going to be the 2.4 GHz system. And by switching the power, you also switch the system that is going to be in use. Of course you have to switch the PPM signal as well, but you don't have to connect the PPM signal to the switch. So as you can see right here, the PPM signal, this white one, is coming from the main board and is directly soldered to the 35 MHz. And then there's another wire running with the PPM signal to this connector, which is going to be soldered onto the 2.4 GHz system. So the positive and the ground wire right here coming from the board are wired to the switch right here, and this switch runs through the 35 MHz board as well as to the connector I'm going to solder. So what I'm going to do now is I've got my ground, this is the brown one, I've got my PPM signal, which is the white one, and I've got my positive wire, which is the red one, and I'm going to solder these to the FrSky system, and here the yellow one is the ppm signal, the black one is the ground wire, and the red one is the positive. So first I cut the wires off the connector. I don't need this one anymore. I used it for the BEVRC long range system, but I'm not going to use this one in this transmitter anymore. So now I'm stripping the ppm signal wire, and I'm going to use my helping hand. Okay, now we have all three wires soldered onto the board. We've got the ppm, we've got the positive and the ground wire, which are controlled by the switch on the outside here. And the next step is to find a place in the transmitter where we can put the board as well as the antenna and of course the binding button. So after thinking about where to put the module and where to put the binding button, I decided to drill two holes right here, two small holes for the binding button and the LED, and drill another hole on the back right here so that the antenna is going to be mounted like this. Okay, so once it's done it looks like this. Well, works fine. This is what it's going to look like. Okay, so now I've got the binding button and the status LED in place, and I'm going to fixate them with a drop of hot glue. And you want to make sure that you don't get hot glue on the button, which is going to harm the trigger function. Okay, I decided myself to stick the FrSky module with a double-sided foamy tape on the main board. It's going to fit, and there's still going to be enough space for the battery tray. So I'm going to stick it on there, and then I'm going to screw all screws back in place, and yeah, that is it. You can screw the transmitter side back on, and you've got your FrSky module installed. Next step is to bind the receiver with the transmitter, and to do that you have to make sure that your transmitter is in ppm mode. This is very important, otherwise it won't work. The first step is to turn on your transmitter by holding down the bind button that you installed with the 2.4 GHz system. So I'm holding down this button, turning on the transmitter. I'm waiting a few seconds. I release the button and now it's flashing red. This indicates that the transmitter is ready to be bind. And next step is I'm going to connect a power source to my receiver. You want to make sure that you have it the right way on there. Going to connect the servo just for testing. And now I press down this button while turning on the power on the receiver. And now that one is flashing as well. And as soon as this one is flashing, it symbolizes that there is a connection made. And now you have to turn both off. Now you can turn on them again. And now you have a connection made. Simple as that. So thanks for watching and feel free to subscribe.